Good morning, everybody. My name is Phyllis.
And I'm Gaby.
And this morning on Blooper Troopers, we are discussing
Gun Maverick.
Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Kosinski. He's back. Tom Cruise is back. I would say better than ever. Tom Cruise is looking incredible.
Yeah, he actually does look better than the original movie.
I agree, and he's 59.
Yep.
I think he's just moving up there. Maybe he's Benjamin Buttoning us pretty hard. What if he just got younger?
What if he just got younger? I mean, you could still see that he's an adult and older. And in the original movie, he looks like a child. So.
Yeah. Is this when I confess I have not seen the original Top Gun?
Oh, that's true. I have, but you haven't.
I haven't. And I feel like that should put me in film jail. Just because in film school, we definitely screened it. I definitely didn't go to that screening. I've seen a lot of clips from it. I know the need for speed.
Yeah, infamous quote that I was hoping that we would have in this movie, but we never had it, even as a voiceover.
That's true. I mean, we could have had a little flashback, but they covered so many of the pivotal moments in Top Gun, from what I can tell. Not that I know the pivotal moments from Top Gun. From my research, it seems like they hit a lot of notes. So I'm cool that they let that one lie.
That's true. Now, spoiler warning for everyone, because we will be talking about the entire movie.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about everything. So if you have not seen Top Gun Maverick yet, and you don't want to know what's going to happen or any of the goodies, listen to this afterwards. But we promise it will enrich your experience. And that is why we're here.
Yeah.
Enriching.
Did you happen to see my video on YouTube?
I did not see the Top Gun video. I actually didn't. That was on my list last night. I did watch quite a few, but I didn't watch yours. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
Hey, let's plug it. Plug your video right now.
So on Page to Frame Storytelling, which is my YouTube channel, I talk about Top Gun's visual effects and how they used it in the original movie versus, I maybe lightly touch on the 2022, because what they use in 2022 is the standard now. And what made Top Gun so revolutionary in the film industry was what they did with the VFX in the original movie. Before Top Gun, they had never shot on planes, or at least the jets. And they actually rigged cameras to the wings of the jet, inside the cockpit.
Wow.
And they even had an airplane that had a camera underneath it as an exterior shot. And then of course they ended up, I love VFX.
No, if y'all can't tell, to make a comparison to the movie, I am taking the wingman position today. He is our pilot. You're Phoenix, I'm Bob. I think that's a good comparison.
Yes.
I'll be behind you for some comedic relief. But all in all, you're nailing this. Also, I was blown away to realize that so many of the aerial shots weren't VFX.
Yeah, in both movies, that was a big thing, that the Navy actually did pilot all the planes. So they did get all of the footage kind of live. Actually, in the original movie, the stunt pilot actually passed away. So in the first movie, Maverick gets into an accident and he tailspins downward. Well, in order to do that in the plane that they had back in the day, he had to do it upside down because it was safer. However, he lost control mid-flight and he actually ended up disappearing.
They just couldn't even find him?
Yeah.
Where'd they film this? The Bermuda Triangle?
Well, they don't even know where they filmed it, because on the carrier of the Navy ship, they were never allowed to know their location for security purposes.
That's crazy. That's wild. I mean, it's wild. It's also tragic. They never found him or the wreckage or the plane.
I think they found the plane and the wreckage, but never him.
Why do I feel like Tom Cruise, he does his own stunts. I feel like he was in that plane and he somehow survived. I feel like that's kind of the Tom Cruise plot, is he always makes his way out of the disaster and they found him, but no one else.
No, it was a solo trip, because they don't even know what went wrong with the plane. So the amount of planning that goes into those aerial maneuvers is a ton.
Physics.
The fact that they had planned it to a T and then it went wrong still confuses them today. But if you notice, the original movie does have a thank you or in recognition of the pilot that passed away.
I think I figured it out. They were filming this over the ocean?
No, this one specifically was, I think, in the desert.
Okay, I was gonna say Cthulhu grabbed him. That would be my one conclusion, is just big tentacle in the air, took the plane, brought it back home. But if it was in the desert, that could be lizard people. That could be, you know what? I'm gonna blame the military on this one. But it was an Area 51 sitch. Classic Area 51 sitch.
So how they got the VFX for the actors being on the pilot seat, because of course they never flew any jets back in the old movie, is that they threw on projectors. So they got a broken plane that the Navy gave them that had just the front part, and then they projected the aerial flights that they had in the background. So there was no green screen used for that. And the only problem was that they still needed explosions, and that was when practical effects had to have 3 sizes of very, very detailed models. And that's why the explosions aren't like as detailed. Sometimes they're like a little further away because they're like models. They were filmed on the skyline because they thought that if they filmed it in a blue screen, you could tell easily because you're comparing it to live footage of jets. So it's not like it's all models. So they had to like keep that in mind. I thought that was really clever and cool. But what I liked about the projection that they used for the pilots, for when they're pilots, is that it's used now. Mandalorian has a fully projected set.
So are we talking about, just for clarification, you're talking right now about the original Top Gun?
Yes.
Gotcha. And how do we compare that to Top Gun Maverick? What was the difference in cameras they used? Did they use drones?
So they used a plane. This time, instead of 4 cameras in the cockpit, they used 6, and they were all IMAX cameras.
It's a lot of money in the air.
Yeah, so much. They still had the plane cameras that would follow for the exterior shots. In the original movie, they only had 4 actors go up. In this one, they had every single side character that, like, if you saw them in a jet, they went up in a jet. And in both the original movie and the current movie, they both had to go through training to even withstand it. Because if you know anything about actually flying in jets, you have to train your body to breathe a specific way. If not, you could literally pass out or die.
That was one thing they did very well in Top Gun Maverick, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but whenever they were blacking out, I thought it was a really cool effect they had with like the walls coming in. It's like whenever, I think it was, I can't remember all their names, but the dude that passed out in Top Gun Maverick when he was coming out of the barrel.
Oh, yeah. He was...
Tail spun. You're like, oh no, I was on the edge of my seat. I had my quarter zip up, and I was like, oh gosh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
That scene scared me, but I think the passing out element of it felt like soft. It reminded me of times when I passed out.
The luckily thing is that you remind yourself that they're not really piloting that, but they did have to do crazy maneuvers for that. There was a lot to what they could and could not do. I do think that it's crazy. I think they've had the most amount of civilians on the rears of those jets, because those are like no joke, and they were going super fast. I do know that they probably weren't going as fast as the movie says they were. I mean, at those top speeds, you can't tell the difference.
No. I mean, to me as the viewer, going into Top Gun, having not seen the first one, I went into it completely blind, really excited, expectations through the roof, because these reviews are crazy. I think Rotten Tomatoes 99%, which I don't always trust Rotten Tomatoes. I think the audience can be wrong sometimes. I tend to agree more with IMDb, but IMDb gave them an incredible review as well. Going into Top Gun blind, having not seen the first one, I thought they handled it beautifully. I thought it was just a standalone movie.
Yes, so that's what I think is very beautiful about Maverick, the sequel, is that you do not need to see the first original movie to understand. Yes, you're gonna get more feels out of it a little bit, but I think it's like not significant enough. Like, I think you're still gonna cry in the parts you're supposed to cry. Yeah. I think you're still gonna feel what you're supposed to feel, because they give you so much backstory without hitting you over the head with it.
True. They really didn't smack me over the head with it. The things they wanted me to remember, they wove them in beautifully with subtle flashbacks. Rooster, I could understand there was a difficult relationship between Maverick and Rooster, but I couldn't connect that back to, what was Rooster's dad's name? Goose? Goose. The death of Goose, I hadn't seen it, but the flashback for the death of Goose it wasn't overly done, it wasn't overly dramatic. It was just enough for me to understand, oh no, this was a close friend, he's deceased, there's a lot of baggage, there's a lot of weight here, but they didn't milk it too much. I didn't need to keep being reminded of him laying in the water with Goose. And I think a lot of movies tend to reference the original way too much.
And this one was a movie that stands on its own, but also gives homage to the original. I loved when Maverick was going super fast and he'd be like, talk to me, Goose. And I think that was their nod to both Goose being dead and, of course, the need for speed, because they always wanted to go fast. So, like, the faster he goes is only when he says it. Not when he's, like, just generally flying, but when he's, like, kind of going reckless. He's kind of, like, wanting that, like, guidance, you know, whether or not he's doing the right thing. And I think Goose was very much in the original. He's, like, guiding him, like, this is just crazy enough to be pulled off, or this is maybe too crazy, and we should not do it.
But I don't think there was anything that Maverick didn't attempt. I mean, that's the point of Maverick's character, is he's always pushing the level. He's always trying to do what he wants to do despite of what the higher ups tell him to do. I feel like he was consistently always, I guess, pushing the envelope. That's what I meant to say earlier.
Yeah, well, they touch upon it on this movie, but it was done more in the original movie, which again, this one I still prefer. But in the original movie, he actually quits Top Gun because Goose dies. And it was him being a little bit too close to an airplane. Like, he blamed himself. The Navy clears him for the thing. He, like, blames himself for doing that. And it also represents why, Rooster never flies with a rear. Is because he's always terrified that he would be put in Maverick's position, where he would have to go to the family and be like, hey, I, as the pilot, survived, and my rear died. And so that was very interesting to see. In the original movie, Maverick had to get over this in order to be a pilot, because even though he was reckless, he was still one of the best pilots that they had, Iceman being the best in their class. And I think Iceman was, I don't think there was an Iceman in this version, like in this new movie. However, I do think that Maverick was represented in the guy that you don't like.
Oh, Hangman?
Hangman? That was their parallel to Maverick, was the way Hangman behaved, is how Maverick behaved in the original movie. But imagine Hangman being more reckless and having a rear. So like having a best friend to like support you in your recklessness.
The difficult thing with Hangman's character for me was how much he completely neglected the team. Would you say Maverick in the original Top Gun was just thinking about himself?
Yes, it was a huge plot point of the movie, and reminding Maverick that he had to be careful, he had to think of his rear, he had to think of the people around him, that he could get people killed, and he never saw the severity of that until Goose died.
And moving forward into Top Gun Maverick, I think Goose's death really affected the entire theme of the movie, where Maverick kept reiterating, we're bringing these people home alive. We're bringing these people home safe.
Yeah.
While John Hamm's character kind of kept saying, well, we're going to complete the mission. It was mission first, kind of casualties second. But I feel like Maverick really looked at it as his first priority was to make sure all these young pilots came home. And you really could hear him reiterating that throughout his teaching.
Yeah. And that is reflective on Goose dying and him realizing that. And also having like Iceman as a friend and being loyal, like imagining someone not caring about Iceman or Goose is how maybe I interpreted Maverick feeling that they were doing that to the pilots. That's why he had to keep reminding them, like, these aren't drones, these aren't machines that you keep wanting to replace us with. These are people and these are families that, you know, are affected at the result of this mission.
That kind of leads me into one of the first things in the movie that really struck me was, well, the opening sequence, we get this feeling that Maverick hasn't moved on with his life. I mean, they noted later, Iceman even mentioned that he could have been, I don't know, my military.
A general or...
Not a colonel, marshal. He could have been a higher up, and he could have even been a congressman, but no, he's still at Top Gun teaching. He was still
not
in
even
the desert.
Teaching, because he only taught for 2 months.
And then he flew.
Then he went back to being a pilot and being a test pilot or a flight simulator.
Yes, and in that opening sequence with him being a flight simulator and he's pushing the envelope and this man wants to shut down the program, which I'm so glad they didn't linger on that too much. We do get this immediate understanding that Maverick is constantly rising against the machine. He's rising against the authority. He's going to do Maverick regardless of what people think. But also, I believe that general, whose name I can't remember, had a really strong point that I think fed into the rest of the theme of the film, which was time is our greatest enemy. Time as a pilot is your enemy, not just in the course, but also in the evolution of technology. He mentioned how pilots are going to be a thing of the past. In the future, we're going to have drone planes. We're going to have these automated planes. We aren't going to need you anymore, Maverick. We're not going to need Top Gun. This will be a thing of the past. And time just kept reoccurring, and how much Maverick was looking back on how he spent his life and how he spent his time, specifically in his relation with Goose, and how he kept him from going to the Naval Academy, how he'd been holding him back.
Rooster, not Goose.
Rooster, not Goose. But I think time proved to be the biggest enemy instead of the terrorist organization. And there were so many places where you could point blame as, this is our antagonist, this is who we're rising against. But they never gave any specifics as to who the special mission was invading, which I liked. Kept it very vague. I think that was also for the purpose of driving the plot. We didn't have these commies, we didn't have the Russians. We just had this mission and they're racing against time. I thought time as the villain was a really strong theme.
Yeah, so one thing that I liked about Rooster and Maverick's relationship, first of all, I love that was a relationship that they focused on, and that Maverick was not a side character. He was very much the main character. Mm-hmm. I do like that Rooster did not blame him for his father's death. Even though he does use it against him, I think he only does that because it knows it hurts him. Mm-hmm. And it's just an easy jab. But I feel like what he's actually mad about is that he did lose 4 years of being a pilot. You know, he is as good as all these Top Gun people, but because he lost those years, he maybe isn't seeing himself as experienced as they are.
Cool.
But to be fair, he's also the most careful. He is the polar opposite of what Maverick is. He's so careful that he spent twice as much time doing the run, twice as much time doing this, and he would go back for all his people because all he keeps thinking about is every pilot, like Maverick, right? Every pilot is Goose. Rooster sees that in the same way, but instead of Maverick seeing it like, I need to prepare them so that they don't end up like my best friend, Rooster sees it as, I have to be there for them because maybe in his head, Maverick wasn't there as much as he should have been. I don't know. But I think that was a very big character point that they both had. I knew Hangman was going to be important character, but I do like that they did not spend as much time with Hangman.
They had so many strong characters. Well, one, we keep talking about them as side characters, but the pilots that he's training, we can't discount that they're the best of the best.
Yes.
Well, they are in a weird way, and this was another theme that was difficult for me to comprehend because I've never been in the military, I've never been in the armed forces, but that indispensability of being a pilot, of these are the people, they're so smart, they're so talented at what they do, but really any mission could ultimately be your last.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but the military has to keep going forward knowing that. And they have to keep going forward in the plan knowing that at any moment anything could go wrong, any of these really talented students could be dead, and they'd have to explain to their families
what happened.
Well,
they keep explaining, just honestly just giving their condolences, because sometimes things are classified and they're not allowed to give information.
Gotcha. But, sorry, stepping back to talking about the pilots, I know he was teaching them. I know we view Maverick as truly, he's his name. He's a Maverick. He's the best at what he does. He's the best pilot. If he didn't have Iceman in there, rooting for him, getting him out of the trouble he keeps having with authority, bringing him back to Top Gun, he probably still wouldn't be doing what he's doing. They don't want Maverick flying. Yet he's teaching these side characters who they developed just enough that I cared about them, and it was something was going wrong. I was like, but they didn't over-explain them. There wasn't a point where I felt like I knew each one of their backstories and I lost track of who was who. Also, the code names helped a lot. Bob, Baby on Board, Phoenix, Hangman, like having these like nicknames definitely helped me remember what was going on, but I didn't get overly attached. You know? Yeah. Like I still was rooting for them, but I expected two of them to die. I still expected someone with less lines to die instead of Rooster or Hangman or Phoenix. Like I was still waiting for that moment. I was okay with it.
It was definitely interesting to see that one thing that the original had and that this one had is that they don't explain terminology. And they don't explain too much of backstory.
They didn't really need to because it was always in context.
Yeah, or they visually showed it.
Yes. I keep referring to Top Gun Maverick as mastery. I really think they mastered the blockbuster movie. I think the pacing of it was so solid. I think there was just enough moments in between where, is Tom Cruise gonna die? Oh no, Rooster saved him. Oh no, is Rooster gonna die? Oh my God, Tom Cruise saved him. Like, there was just enough pacing and it was just enough broken apart. And then them stealing the plane. There was enough suspension of disbelief that I was still watching, but there was never a moment where I felt overwhelmed. I wanted to know what was gonna happen next.
So I had seen some reviews and they really talk about how Tom Cruise has used his several movies in Mission Impossible to get the timing right for Top Gun, because the timing is on point. There are times of disbelief. You're not thinking like, oh, it's, an hour into the movie, he's not gonna die now. Like, when you think he's going to die, you generally think he's going to die, and he could die. I also like a lot of the foreshadowing that they did, because it wasn't foreshadowing to be foreshadowing. It was foreshadowing, but they used it as comic relief, and they used it flowed very natural with the storyline. Like, one of the foreshadowings that I can remember is when Maverick is explaining the campsite, and they're explaining the planes that they have, and they mention the planes that they use in the original movies
as dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, as how old they are and stuff like that. And in that sense, you at that time just think, oh, that's a funny line. Oh, they're making fun of him, that he's old, that he's outdated, that time is catching up with him. As you say, time is a villain. But yet, when you see the camp again, when Rooster and Maverick have lost all hope and they run towards the camp, you know what they're running towards. It was that one plane that stood out because of the joke. It was like, yeah, well, now that dinosaur is going to just save their lives.
Well, one of the basic rules in film is anything you introduce, whether a character is stubbing their toe on a specific coffee table or they get a call in the beginning, every even minute detail needs to tie back into the narrative in some way, whether it's explaining a character's reasoning for making a decision or saves the day in the end with the plane. But I could kind of feel all the nods to the old plane that at some point Tom Cruise was going to get back in an old jet. We were going to get to have that moment. And I'm really glad we got it. And I was really nervous when they were running out there and getting the plane ready, because, it was an old ass plane. It wasn't expected to work on the first try. But the way they went in and confidently ran into there, just got out, I was on the edge of my seat. I would say more so than when Tom Cruise was on the ground in the snow and the plane was coming towards him. In that moment, you could kind of tell, oh no, someone's gonna save him here. But with them running to that plane and getting in, at any moment, anything could have shifted. And I was just there was during the climax to the end of the film, the good 20-minute chunk, I was very much on the end of my seat. Well, I saw it in a movie theater with couches, so I was sprawled out across the couch, but I was continuously making the open mouth, what's gonna happen next? And I don't really get into action movies like that so much. I love a good action movie. I love chase scenes, I'm in. But Top Gun really managed to do this in a way that felt familiar, but it felt advanced.
Felt human.
It felt human. It felt natural. There was never a point where I was like, oh, this is cheesy. No, and this ties back to something else I was talking to you about yesterday about cheesy like movie making, when it comes to making a blockbuster hit, there's all these rules that I think everyone follows, but Top Gun really picked and chose the best. And in the very end sequence, when they come back, they win, they did it, no casualties. Heck yeah, the hangman, the bad dude, comes in, saves the day. We get this amazing conclusion. They're all out there. There was the female pilot, and I was still waiting for someone to just kiss her. I was gonna be so upset and be like, come in here and be like, dang it, like, why do like we always have to have the romance of the one token woman in this flight school, which I loved her character. I thought they did a great job developing her, that she was a strong leader.
Yeah.
I'm so glad no one kissed her in the end, because I just wanted her to be an equal with them, be a teammate. I didn't want her to be a love interest. And they preserved that beautifully. Like, there wasn't too much love. There wasn't too much goop injected into it. And the love that was in it and the romantic twists, I thought were very tasteful. And I thought Tom Cruise kind of deserved it after his shitty past with women.
That's true. I just feel like they should have spent less time on the romance with Top Gun. But because I loved the flight simulations and I loved the pilots that we were learning about and I loved their interactions with Maverick so much that I was like, I need less of this lovey-dovey stuff.
9 times out of 10, I'll argue for less love in a story. I mean, they inject that because everyone loves love. It's something that everybody will enjoy. I think Top Gun Maverick can easily be seen as like a dude movie. And so we need some rose petals for the women. All those tropes annoy me. I disagree with everything I've just said. But I thought they did it very tastefully. Also, can't remember the actress's name, but she was just so timelessly and effortlessly beautiful. She was such a badass, running her own bar, running that sailboat. I think in a way she was kind of giving Tom Cruise a run for his money. He had to really prove himself to her. Yeah. In a similar way to he was proving himself to Top Gun, to John Hamm, and proving himself to himself, if that makes sense. I feel like he had a lot that he had a lot on the line going back to Top Gun. I mean, the last time he was there, unfortunately, he was responsible for the death of one of his wingman, his close friend. And now he's returning, his close friend's son. And now he's responsible for that guy's life as well. It was a lot of pressure on him. And so there was just a lot of discovery.
No, yeah, it was a lot of character development, which I really like. I like at the end so many nods. Like when at the end when he's in the rear, I like that Rooster doesn't know anything of that plane. He's like, this is so old that like I, as a modern pilot, cannot like. I like that he understood there were basic things that rear needed to have. And he was asking Maverick about it, and I love the line that Maverick gives him. He's like, I don't know, that was your dad's department.
I love that, though, because we needed the scene of Maverick and Goose's son together in a plane that him and Goose were in together. Getting all my birds confused. I'm hoping I'm staying on track with the flock. But we needed that scene. I wasn't expecting Tom Cruise to fly that mission. When he came back, okay, taking a couple steps back to character development, I think a big lifeline for Maverick in Top Gun Maverick was Iceman. He needed Iceman to keep him essentially still flying. Iceman knew that they needed him in the sky. Iceman knew that Maverick was the best pilot they had. And Iceman was so powerful in this narrative that he was able to use his authority to keep him flying when clearly no one else wanted Maverick to, because he was a risk. And in the death of Iceman, at that pivotal moment where Maverick is no longer able to coach the program, and now Iceman's removed, so he doesn't have anybody rooting for him anymore.
He has no safety net.
No safety net, which also kind of goes with like being a fighter pilot. You have no safety nets. It really mirrors the risk of the task at hand, which, sorry, I could keep going in that loop forever. But we really reached that pivotal moment, right before Iceman passes. We get that awesome Val Kilmer scene where they incorporated his experience with throat cancer into his character, which I loved. I thought that was extremely tasteful. Really heartfelt moment where each word that Iceman communicates needs to be really intentional, because we know that speaking for him is hard, and everything he types, it has to be extremely deliberate because they have a short interaction amount of time, and they fit it in really well. And I thought it was the perfect timing for them to reunite, and then for Iceman to go away. It really solidifies that like Maverick needs to step the fuck up. Like he needs to figure this out. He needs to understand that there's always going to be obstacles. Even when he's a teacher, even when he's established himself in his career, there's still going to be people fighting against him, and he's still going to have to show up and prove that he's the best of the best. And I loved that scene following Iceman's death where he comes in, he's like, no, I'm going to fucking do the course. It's not going to take me 4 minutes, John Hamm. It's going to take me 15 seconds less. It's going to take me 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And he nailed it.
Yeah, he did it in half the time, and he did it 15 seconds left than he had given every other pilot to do. And that was very important because I like how he does come to the conclusion. He's like, well, how can I show these pilots that it's been done? And I do like that the general or the guy above him does tell him, like, you just spent all this time showing them that they can never do this. And I think that at that point, Maverick's kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of did. Like, in wanting to protect them, I also, like, kind of maybe went too much in the, like, you need to do this or you're going to die, but then not believing that you could do it. I do love that his solution is that he needs to fly it. Because if he can't, then it really is impossible.
And he had to step up. He didn't just do it, he one-upped himself, which I think really shows Maverick viewing a situation, realizing he has to nut up or shut up. If he can't fly this course, if he can't prove them wrong in that moment, he's done. I mean, there's no need for him in this mission anymore. He done goofed. He's out.
And I do like it because it also goes back to what Hangman says, and a line that's in the trailer and both the movie is, this is a mission that is unlike any other, that there hasn't been a pilot who's ever even attempted it or could even fly it. Not even Maverick. And he specifically calls out Maverick that he couldn't even do the mission.
It was a really, well, they did a great job of making this mission seem impossible. Which, hilarious, Mission Impossible, whatever. But those planes flying so low to the ground, like the entire time they're flying through that valley in that big action sequence, even building up to that in their training, because training sequences can kind of make the main conflict watered down, because we've seen it before. We've seen them run this trial. We've seen them fail. And obviously, hopefully, they're still going to fail. These two miracles are going to happen. But I was actively really nervous. And they did a really good job of conveying the pilot's nerves as well when they kept panning up to those missiles that were pointed at them.
Yes.
When they were going through the valley, they not only were showing like how close they were to the ground, and as someone that gets scared from like on the highway when I'm near the walls, like I always drive like a little too far away. I was like they're just so close to the trees. But also we could feel how scared they were by not only how close they were to the other planes, but they had other planes from the enemy team on the radar coming at them. There was just so much going on, but I never lost sight of Maverick's mission. The whole time there's so much shit going on, there's so many pilots that I want to get home safely. My attention was focused on Tom Cruise because he is the lead. He's not only the teacher, but he became the leader of the team.
Yeah, he became the captain.
And the moment that he picked Rooster to be on that team and be essentially his wingman, whoa, you know, I was like crying in my popcorn. I was like, yes, we needed this. I should have known it was coming. But I did not really see Tom Cruise being the leader in that mission. I thought it was going to be the conflict of him choosing between Hangman and Rooster to be the leader.
Oh, I knew as soon as Rooster was picked, Hangman would have to go in and was eventually going to help save them.
Definitely.
Because that's what Maverick does in the original movie. That's legitimately what he does. Is Iceman goes on a mission. Maverick is sent behind because, again, he had just lost his friend. He was unsure. Iceman had even told the military, like, dude, I don't want Maverick with me. I don't trust him to be a wingman. I don't think he's in the right frame of mind. So they hold him back. So he is what Hangman becomes, which is the man, the emergency pilot. Like, if anything goes wrong, he goes. And that's why he takes down 3 enemy ships, is because it's Iceman and another pilot that are getting left behind. The military was like, gonna be like, well, they died, my bad. You know, that's it. And Maverick comes up and he does take out the 3 enemy pilots to save Iceman, which is where their loyalty comes from.
It's so hardcore.
Yeah, so I knew that as soon as Rooster was chosen, I'm like, okay, Hangman's gonna have his moment like Maverick did. It's gonna happen. It has to happen. It's part of a story beat that is very iconic to Top Gun.
And maybe this is coming from me who hasn't seen the original Top Gun, but I think even though so much of the plot lines up, like if you were to take Top Gun and layered on top of Top Gun Maverick. There's so many themes and so much of it that intertwines. It still felt like two separate movies. They both stand really strong by themselves. I will still argue that Top Gun Maverick is better than Top Gun, just because that's what everyone's saying. That's the vibe I get. I need to watch it before I can like definitively give that answer.
My opinion towards that is that Top Gun, the original movie, was shot as a sports movie, and it had the story beats of a sports movie. However, Maverick has the story beats of a military movie, because military movies are more prominent now, and we've had so many, like Dunkirk. I can't remember
Bunch of Spies.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if that was. I don't watch a lot of military movies. I don't know. War movies, specifically in like film history, are so important. So I wish I liked them a little bit more. I've just come to expect the same things from war movies and military movies. But the cool thing about Top Gun Maverick, and this talking about it as a military movie completely explains what I'm about to say. But there were definitely two moments where my friend I was with had to hold me back because I wanted to stand up and start chanting USA, USA. Like the credits were rolling, I wanted to be chanting it, and then in the best scene in the entire thing. I know the flights were awesome. I loved all the aerial sequences; they were gorgeous. But that beach football scene, I mean, you knew I was going to bring it up. How could I? The song was so cool. The beach football scene was so sexy. And it just got my patriotism like really going. I was like, yeah, these are American soldiers playing touch football. More than anything else, I was really feeling the American spirit watching those hunky pilots.
So that's
on the beach.
That's a complete mirror to the original, but they were playing volleyball and they were shortless.
Gotcha. Okay, I've seen that scene. And maybe that was once again a woman injection. We needed kind of like a sexy scene. The music was such a good choice.
Originally, and it's the way that they explain it in Maverick, and they explain it
for the team.
Yeah, it's team building. So it's a sports arc of they are a team and they have to become a team. They use it in the original for that reason, and they use it in Maverick, but in Maverick they do straight up tell you, like, this is team building. We're not just doing it to have shirtless guys.
Well, yeah, John Hamm shows up and is like, what the heck? And if I'd been watching it alone at home, I would have cut my hands and been like, John Hamm, take off your shirt too. But John Hamm shows up, and I love that I don't know his name. I'm just calling him by his actor. And he's like, what is going on? Like that anchor. I'm sure in Top Gun they had a similar thing with the volleyball. Maybe someone came up. Oh, they didn't. Well, regardless, I love that he showed up and Tom Hanks hits him with the line, you wanted a team, here's a team. And of course it cuts and they're like holding someone over their head. They're like, yeah, this guy won.
It was Bob.
It was Bob?
Yeah.
Oh, I love underdog Bob. He really didn't have a lot of lines. He really didn't contribute much beyond his introduction. But I loved him and I rooted for him the most.
Yeah. I think that Bob was a very loved character. I like that he got put with Phoenix because I think that their interactions with each other were so great. Because I feel like Phoenix was like, I'm already underestimated, and now I got this nerdy dude who doesn't even have a proper code name. His code name is his name. So
I also love that she never gave us... we never got a monologue from her where she had to defend her gender or defend why she's there. There was never any bringing up of, well, I'm a woman in this man's area. No, it didn't need to be said. It could go unspoken. And I really appreciated that. They knew what to edit out.
Yeah.
They were selective about what was in the movie. And as someone that loves film, as someone that is really judgmental of blockbuster movies, action movies, Tom Cruise movies, admittedly, I think he's iconic. I think he's changed the way that we look at film in general. I think as an actor, he's pushed entertainment.
The limits.
He's pushed the limits. And I think Top Gun Maverick is kind of the apex of his work. I think it's
his crowning achievement.
It's his crowning achievement.
Phoenix never got her own speech. And you never felt like she didn't belong there. Like, she wasn't fully the underdog. Mm-hmm. Actually, Bob was the underdog.
Yeah.
And some of the other pilots were like kind of the underdogs. She was like maybe the third best pilot out of all three of them. And so I really liked that. Mm-hmm. I liked that she acted like some of the boys. She had that personality very similar to the guys.
Push-ups. She gave Bob a hard time. She was throwing back brewskis with them in the bar scene. I wanted to be at that bar.
Yeah.
There were so many attractive people. There was so much fun. I love when they unplugged the jukebox and Rooster came in with the piano and the glasses. I think that's when I got a little crush on Rooster, was just the confidence of unplugging the jukebox and being like, no. Live music time. Sunglasses on inside, let's go.
But so he's been singing that song since he was a kid, as the flashback explains that.
And it was a good length flashback too. There was never anything that ran on too long.
Yeah.
In so many movies, I find myself rolling my eyes being like, I get it. It's like, it's a father-son relationship, Rob. He represents this missing piece of himself with this person. Like, stop over-explaining it. Top Gun explained it just enough that as someone that doesn't know the franchise, I got it, and they trusted me with that information.
No, yeah, it was really great, which is why I like when they're in the plane together, Maverick and Rooster, and Maverick says, "Talk to me, Goose." And then a few seconds later, Rooster replies, we're like, "Maverick, we gotta get out of here."
I kept wondering if their headsets were to each other, so could Rooster hear him ask Goose
Yes.
for... Okay.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And I knew that had to happen in that plane scene. Like, I knew Maverick had to say it because I felt like that was for Rooster to understand that his father really did never get over his father's death. Like, I know that...
How do you?
Yeah, that's true. That's a hard one. Because in the original movie, they even explain that they've been friends for like years and they've been partners for years. Even though in the original movie, they were at an academy and this one was a mission, which I love that this one was like an impossible mission. And that's why they needed retraining rather than it being like, now you're in an academy and you're like, it didn't feel like school. There was real stakes, not a trophy like in the original movie. This was like, if you don't step up, you die.
And there were real stakes for everyone involved, which was really nice because in movies, this was a very dynamic plot. There was a very dynamic problem to be overcome here because not only did Maverick have to overcome this impossible mission, teaching all these kids, he's back at Top Gun, his friend has died. Not only is another friend of his, who he's responsible for his death, son there, I don't think those pronouns work. I'm gonna keep going straight. Every single person in there had not just the mission at hand. They had something internally to work on. Whether it was on the team, they're trying to get into the top 5 to get to go on this mission, or it's, Rooster learning to kind of forgive or start viewing Maverick in kind of a father-son kind of way.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a level of, at the end of mentorship, of fatherhoodship. There was definitely a lot that each character had to overcome. Like Hangman had to overcome his selfishness and wanting to genuinely just prioritize himself getting on this team over the team completing the mission. And so seeing all of that, all of these conflicts, all of these things that had to be achieved perfectly wrapped together in the end after this gigantic, brilliant mission. Yeah, it made me want to chant USA again. I did almost chant USA several times. I should have brought a flag.
Should have brought a flag.
I will go back to see Top Gun Maverick. I do want to see it in IMAX.
No,
see it
in Screen X.
In Screen X. Is that what you saw it in last night?
No, I did, but was not able to rewatch it.
We should go see it in Screen X, and I will bring a flag and fireworks, and we'll just see who gets kicked out first. Me, actually, I was
gonna say, I'm gonna be just really quiet in the sidelines.
Yeah, actually, let's not do that. But I would see it again, just because the flight scenes. It was just a beautiful movie. It was a blast to watch. It was gorgeous. It was a flex on how far cinematography has come. Like, I love when a cameraman is able to like pop some veins out, and that's what Top Gun felt like to me. Is every shot was so beautiful. It was the most beautiful of the most beautiful. And it explained the plot. It furthered it well. I was interested the whole time. I don't know what else you could want. What more could you want from an action Tom Cruise movie than Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah, no, I do like that they also didn't skimp on the technology.
Mm-mm.
So, and I don't mean just making the movie, but I mean like that we do have drones, we do have flightless planes, and that is an enemy that's coming. And we might be at the best time to have this type of movie, and maybe a third movie. I don't know if this one would be like one of those that we just needed the sequel and that's it. We can like go on with our day. But I think that we are at the edge that eventually they are right. Pilots will no longer need to be in the air. They will no longer be up there. We'll be remote controlling them from the ground in the safety. They would no longer hopefully be putting themselves in danger. That's the overall reason of technology, is to keep humans safe.
Yeah, and I think kind of going off that, a lot of companies use movies like this as a reason to establish a franchise. They're laying down the groundwork. They're trying to establish these background characters as, oh, don't worry, they'll be in the show, they'll be in the sequel. And I don't think Top Gun had that at all, which was nice.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they were trying too hard to build a franchise or build a sequel. I think they just went in guns blazing. We're like, let's make this the best freaking movie we possibly can. And they aren't overly fixated on maybe we'll get plugged into something else.
Well, I do like how Tom Cruise has always been producing it as, this is a love letter to aviation.
Oh, a love letter to aviation. It was a love letter to aviation. And motorcycles. All those motorcycle scenes made me want to hop on a Vespa.
I definitely think this is a movie that is now timeless. Definitely the aerial scenes alone are just fantastic, and I love them. I don't want a sequel to this, but I also want to see Rooster again, so...
Oh, I love the actor who plays Rooster. I
Yes.
believe he was the lead in Whiplash, Damien Chazelle. Isn't that movie?
No idea.
Okay, well, we will be watching that as Booker Trooper soon. It is perfected pacing. He's a drummer, and essentially he gets so into his craft that it takes over his life, which as artists, I think is understandable. But he's such a talented actor, and I don't feel like he had a ton of like big breakthrough, like monologue, good actor to prove moments. Like his character wasn't scripted that way, which I'm so glad it wasn't. It would have felt too cheesy. But with the character he was given, Rooster nailed it. Like that was, he was just such a good character. And he was consistently, there was pressure. Every time I saw him, you could feel there was something boiling up inside of him. He was clearly working through a ton of shit. And then on top of that, learning how to handle this incredibly deadly mission. I mean, it worked out well.
It did. I liked it. I applaud it. It is incredible. Tell us your thoughts on Twitter. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know how you guys felt about Top Gun Maverick. I know it's pretty easy to jump on the bandwagon of this movie freaking rocks, but I really didn't have any complaints, which is rare for me in movies. I was taking notes the whole time, and I just kept writing down music. Val Kilmer's lips. That was one thing I wrote down. His lips are very I guess he's known for that.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. But Val Kilmer was kind of cracking me up a little bit. His character looked kind of funny. He looked like a Ken doll that had maybe been Botox infused a little too much. But
poor guy.
Poor guy. But beyond that, I thought it was beyond me making fun of the appearance of this one actor that's incredibly talented and nailed it, I thought Top Gun Maverick was solid.
Yeah.
I will watch it again. I will watch it in 10 years with my kids. I have kids then. And I feel like it's a safe movie. It's a safe movie to invest in. I think bringing it out as saying this is one of my favorite movies when you're talking to film people, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I definitely think so. I am on the opinion we need a less love story, but that's just because I loved the pilot's characters so much that I just wanted more of them. So maybe in truth, I just wanted a longer movie.
Okay, thank you for saying that. I've never said this in my entire life because I'm so ADD. I'm so distracted. I always have shit going on. And I'm a watch checker in movies. Like if the pacing's off, I'm watching. I'm like, when can I leave? I wanted Top Gun Maverick to be longer. I could have sat there and watched another freaking hour of that movie.
Yep.
Like if the mission didn't work out, oh no, we have to do the mission again. I would have been so excited. Go back to Top Gun, they have to relearn how to do it. They're like, okay, to fly lower this time. There's more missiles. I would have watched it. Even if it was repetitive, I would have been in because cinematography was so good. The characters were so lovable. I mean, now I'm just repeating myself. But I give it, how many stars? Does it have stars on the logo? No. I give it 5 stars.
5 out of 5?
5 out of 5.
Oh, wow, that's high praise.
Or 5 planes out of planes. And 5 Tom Cruises out of 5 Tom Cruises.
I like it. So,
Well, yeah, is there anything else you want to add? Anything we missed? I know you know a lot about the VFX, a lot about this movie, and there's so many things you like. But if you could hammer it down to one thing that was your favorite.
I love the character build between Rooster and Maverick. It's just, it was the movie for me. It was, like, if I had nothing else, okay, except for the airplane scenes, those had to happen. But if I could not have anything else, it had to be that relationship. I thought it was built beautifully, great. I loved it.
That's me in the beach scene. Just need to see those gleaming muscles running on some sand. All I needed. Waving my flag.
I love it. So those are our thoughts. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in for Blooper Troopers. We sure appreciate our listeners, especially in the very beginning of this while we're figuring stuff out.
Yes.
But we love your patience. We love your support. Let us know what you think in the comments. And we'll be back next week with, I'm thinking, some dinosaurs.
Yes, Jurassic World.
That wasn't my stomach ache you just heard. But that was a velociraptor. It wasn't my stomach. But thank you guys so much. We'll catch you on the flippity flip.
Catch you next time.
Planes out.
Bye. Danger zone.